Welcome back to the Get Into the Bag podcast. My name is Polo Sho. I'm the host. I'm a YYC MC, a Most One entrepreneur. And today my guest is
Zeta Free. What's good, y'all?
Yeah. And we're just going to chop it up, get into the world of hip hop. I'm going to chop it up with Z, see what she's been up to. And we're going to kick a freestyle. Stay tuned.
Hey.
I feel like, how have you been?
I like it. It's like, okay, it's been a year. End of 2021's almost over. Let's do a recap. How are you at? I feel good. I feel blessed and really grateful. I feel like it's always interesting the end of a year because I feel like it's a time for me that is like very reflective. I think we all do that. But there's this interesting thing, and I don't know if you've seen this, but like especially on the internet where towards the end of any year, I swear this happens every year. It doesn't have to be COVID. It can be any year. There's like this hate on that rises for the year that's just passed. And it'll be this really weird thing humans do where it's like, fuck this year, or like this was the worst year ever. And it's funny to me because I see it happen almost every year. And for me, I try to just be like, all right, let's go through and look at the things that we've like grown through, learned, explored, adventured, like achieved, struggled with, and just be in it for what it was. I'm not going to throw any hate at being alive for a year. I feel like that's a pretty dope thing to experience. The fact that we even get to be alive is like such a random miracle of consciousness. So I feel good. I feel good because I'm still here. How are you?
Yeah, I feel the same. That was good. That was a good opening. But yeah, I feel the same. I feel like I feel like everyone does it at the end of the year. You recap. You're like, did I accomplish what I was trying to do this year? It's a lot of that, but it's also a lot of, at the end of the day, it's just being grateful, right?
Yeah.
That like you said, it's another year that you're alive. Another year that you get to do whatever it is you're pursuing. So yeah.
And gratitude is actually as much as scientific proving can do, it's huge for building resiliency, and more resiliency in our way of being allows us to push more and to feel good about ourselves no matter what the outcome is, to do things just to do them, trying. So I'm like, be gratitude, and then it lets you also be resilient, and then you just keep going at playing with being alive.
Yeah. We don't have a lot of hip hop topics today, but we do have I think it's a conversation going on right now in the circles. So basically, of the verses, how artists are versing each other, right? For those who don't know, because I've talked to people who are listen to music and they don't know about verses.
Yeah.
But anyways, so if you don't know, the verses is a thing. It's actually done by Swizz Beatz and Timbaland, and basically, artists will verse each other with 20 songs. That is the basis of the verses. It began on Instagram Live, but now they actually have a platform for it, and so it's actually growing, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So recently, Jay-Z was in a Clubhouse chat for my Alicia Keys album,
right?
And it just came up. Someone just asked him,
as is gonna, because it's Jay-Z.
Yes, Jay, you never catch him out there like that. So it was, and obviously Jay answered, and he was like, no one can verse me, no one can stand up there with me. And so obviously the internet and fans of other artists, right, and just struck back, and the going poll is the three artists that can verse him would be Kanye West, Drake, and Lil Wayne.
See, okay, I'm a huge Lil Wayne fan. I remember watching the documentary that came out about him years ago, and there's that one scene of him and he's in a hotel room and he's just freestyling, and I was like, what? What is happening? And so I'm biased. I would go Lil Wayne, just because I also think that they have been kind of, side by side growing up together. They've been in it about probably more of the same time.
Yeah.
I guess Kanye West has been there too, but yeah, I just think that I fuck with Lil Wayne more. Who would you put in it?
The basis is, though, it's at the end of the day, it's not who's better. It's who has 20 songs that can go against the other guy's 20 songs.
I think that's who I would put in for it.
Right?
And I'm totally open about my biases. I'm like, this is who I put in because this is the thing that I would listen to the most, right? I feel like Drake is this beautiful flower that I didn't pay attention to when it first bloomed, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And then like the next spring, I was like, wow, like that's a really amazing flower. So I feel like I'm late to the Drake train, and I'm like catching up with it still. So I feel like my love for him is like growing slower.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like it just comes down to the criteria, because I feel like, and I seen like someone had said, like, if it's in New York, it doesn't matter who it is. Like, you know, like the bass is gonna be like, yo, Jay is the GOAT. You know, like, so. But people have said in Atlanta, even Future could go against him, right? So it comes down to like where it is. I don't know. For me, like, I feel like Lil Wayne definitely has like a lot of like. Because if it just comes down to, if it's not just like hit records, but also just like classics, like just, you know, just album cuts that are, you know, joined to the people who go crazy for their hip hop cuts. Lil Wayne's got all those as well, like with the mixtapes. So yeah, I definitely grew up on Lil Wayne, so I feel like I'm biased as well. So.
Do you think like with these things like verses, or when people are like in a battle or any type of situation, I think for me, because I'm very motivated by emotions, and I'm very motivated by things like crowd or community, that type of thing. So I can get so easily, I think, swayed by my emotions in that type of way. And I feel like I like that about my relationship with music and my relationship with artists. But I think I really respect how you were like, okay, let's come down to the criteria. What's logical about this? You know what I mean? That's a really different way to look at it.
That's what it's gonna be at the end of the day.
Yeah,
like, you know, if we're gonna, and so people have already made like lists, like, yo, these would be 20 songs like Jay would do. This is the 20 songs like Lil Wayne would do, and like, you know, obviously, like, people are like, no, those aren't the right songs or whatever. But like, at the end of the day, the artist is the one that makes the pick, right? And we've seen in past verses, you're like, yo, he didn't use this song, you know, like, so it comes down to what it is, you know. I do feel like Jay is definitely like a GOAT, and he should feel that way.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
respect.
like,
and for me, like, I think that I look at the competition within hip hop with a very probably unique lens compared to a lot of people, and I'm not sure if that's because I'm a woman in hip hop, so I feel like there's always been this like extra step, but it's this interesting way of being like, yeah, there's competition here, but to me it never means that like this person is less or doesn't have talent. You know what I mean? It's just like, you're just doing something different, and this thing today happened to be the dopest thing. And I think that it's like, there's never going to be one GOAT. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like that comparison, that if you go over somewhere like Atlanta, or if you're looking where somebody's from, then they might take it, because it's like, that's, people get behind their person, right? That's like an amazing part of being a human. So I think like competition in hip hop is always there, but it's not like you have to like let somebody fall to the wayside if they don't take it. It's just like, yep, you took it in this moment, in this space, and you might take it, then this other person might take it coming up 2 blocks down the road, and just keep going with it, you know? Yeah. It's never like you're gonna fail out forever. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, and that just speaks to it. It's hip hop, right? Like, and so at the end of the day, I feel like it's music. It's just gonna be a matter of opinion at the end of the day, you know. So,
but okay, does hip hop have more competition in it than other genres? I think it hugely does, and I'm always like, this is such a part of this culture, and it's just a fascinating thing to think about that.
There are no like beefs between 2 country artists.
Never,
you know?
I've never.
Like, you know,
or like a folk singer dissing another folk singer in a verse.
How many diss rap songs come out a year compared to diss other genre songs?
Huge.
You know?
And I've been following, because I really love UK hip hop. Like, I feel like that's because I traveled a lot when I was young. So when I got into hip hop mostly, I loved like Australian hip hop. I was big into stuff from the UK, like The Streets. That was one of the first rap crews I really loved. And now I still love UK grime, which is like a whole other battle of what's grime or not. But I vibe with Stormzy in those realms. But there's huge battles going on right now in the UK, and like Stormzy's a part of that. And this, like, you know, these competitions of like, you get to be here, you don't get to be here, you are this, you aren't this. And I like watching that as much as listening to the music, you know? I just like think it's a fascinating thing.
We had a conversation about this with in a previous podcast, just about how, like, you know, there is an aspect to it feels like the record labels, the powers that be, push hip hop and push the violence aspect of hip hop, and just generally. But at the end of the day, that's the hot shit, though. That's, you know, that's what we want to consume, you know. And so
I guess it can be, but there's also just
and
so
it's not
much
all
out
the
there.
time. There's so much more. There's so much more. Don't get me. And 100%, I feel like the conversation ended up with us agreeing that it does feel like the the industry has pushed this image. You know, the industry is gonna sign the, you know, the guy who looks like he plays the part than you know, another guy, the backpack guy, and I feel like that's the agenda, and that's why that's the prevalent thing. But like, you're right, it's
interesting because I always am by the way of saying, like, if you just keep doing your whatever it is and it's dope, it's going to catch on. And I feel like Kid Cudi is a perfect example of this because 100%. I love Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi is like, he was also there at my first fallings in love with hip hop. And I've watched like over so many years, and where it's just like, I'm like, how is this not catching the level that it should be catching at? And he's explored and done some stuff that maybe was like kind of weird, but I vibe with it.
He got big.
And now he's getting it finally, right? But it has been like, man, well over 10 years. And I remember when J. Cole really blew, I was like, man, this guy kind of gives me the same vibes of like Kid Cudi, different element, but like still stories and rawness and brilliant words. And it isn't really about that violence tip. It's a completely different thing. So I wonder, I'm like, is that why Cudi didn't blow for so long? You know what I mean? Is that why it took so long for J. Cole to get there? But I always respect when there's people outside it.
It just feels like the industry is pushing that narrative. You know what I mean? And that's why. But at the end of the day, it just feels like you have to play the game. They control the, you know, you do need the industry to cross to the other side at the end of the day. So that's just how the game is. But realistically, like, as music fans, we know that it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it is dope when there's the competitiveness and all of that shit in it, but at the same time, like you said, stories and clever words, like
it all makes it interesting. It all makes it interesting. It's kind of like that, the reality that we, you know, like, as much as I hate capitalism and I wish that money wasn't the focus of our world, I know that money is a lot linked to freedom and abundance. You know what I mean? So it's like, you hate this thing, whether it's the industry or money or whatever, and we're agreeing to live in this kind of stream of the world where we're also a part of that. So you got to play into it too, I guess. Yeah. Both.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I guess we're gonna have a conversation about you.
Okay.
Yeah, so what's new with you as far as your music, like as far as Z the Free?
Cool. I feel like it's been just over a year since I released my first EP, the Love EP. Shout outs DJ Roxwell. And that year for me was like really stepping into like, I'm gonna do this and I want to do it with my intentions in the right space, and my integrity there with me the whole way. And it was really dope to watch that EP kind of like explode. It was right around this time last year that I was like charting #1 on CJSW, and I love CJSW, so that like really meant a lot to me because I listen to that station all the time. And so I've been thinking about that a lot because it's like, wow, it's been like a year since that, and there was like lots of attention around in the Calgary Herald and stuff. And then it's funny how like it feels so long ago at the same time. And I feel like for myself as an artist and for other artists, it's like, give yourself your graces and like your time to celebrate it. And you're like, you know what, you might feel like it's been a whole year, but yeah, you put out something dope, like, and at this time last year it was like rising up, and now you're taking time to build something dope to put it out again. And so that's what I'm doing. I would like to put a new project out in 2022 that's like my solo work as Z the Free, and I feel like it is a level up. I've just been recording a lot and playing with different things because I think the Love EP was like very gentle, kind of sweet, almost like a junior high teenager or something if I had to put it in terms of growth. And so I feel like this next project I want to be like Z the Free. She's a grown woman, she's graduated and you can hear that in the sound of it. But I've been playing a lot since moving provinces for school, and with a band. We're called One Day Record, and I rap on it. It's a lot of freestyle rap, but also just writing really quickly. It's like a super organic kind of creation. And we're putting out a project in spring that we've been working on now for the last year, and I'm really excited about that. So collaboration is huge for me, and I always want to have both realms. I want to have like Z the Free independent, and then I want to have collabs that are coming through. And that was kind of what fall was for me, was just like music videos and collabs with people that I love, and that's really fun. I feel like that's something that I'm always grateful to do.
So can I ask, like, why, like, what, when you got into music, did you always know from the start, like, I want to have See the Free and I want to be doing collabs, or was it at a certain point you're like, no, this is what
I don't even think that I really got into music. I think that I just loved creative expression. And because I was doing anime voices so young, I was super comfortable in the studio. I love that space. I love that space of performing. And I think music morphed from that through the community of kind of like Cypher Club and freestyle rap. And mostly stepping into it was me just being like, oh, I, deserve to be here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm dope enough to be here. I can make people feel good when I perform. I can make people think and experience something when they listen, and just owning that. And I feel like I really own that strong in myself now. And so it's kind of like there's a lot of breadth to being a creative human and an artist and a community builder, and music is there and will always be there. That's why I'm curious if you ever like have this with humans where they're like, I'm done, I'm quitting rap, I'm out, I'm dropping rap. And I don't know if I could ever do that. I think I'll morph, but I feel like I hope that I always morph with hip hop alongside me in a way. I don't think I could ever be like, I'm quitting. And I wonder what makes people do that. Is it expectations? Is it,
I think it 100% is expectation, and it is just like, I feel like being an artist is one of the hardest things, right? Because like if you don't have like what you have, that, that certainty that, this is hip hop is life, like even if there wasn't cameras, I'm going to still be doing hip hop, right? Like, then I don't know, like you have to have something else that's going to keep you going, right? Because there's so many moments of disappointment, right? If you're just hoping to like, make your first song and it becomes a hit, that disappointment of maybe that first song isn't it, your first show might not be as lit as you think it is, or you know what I mean? Like, so hard. Exactly. So you really, part of being an artist is that, you have to have those first 3 to 5 shows that suck, that then you're like, oh, okay, this is how to rock the crowd, like, and it's, I feel like, you have to have that, right? Like some people, and so that's, if that's the question you're asking, I feel like that's why people would be like, yeah. And
I think it's always also interesting, like when I love going to hip hop shows, like anywhere, whatever city I'm at, and kind of more like maybe low key ones, you know what I mean? And then seeing artists maybe that I don't even know who are on tour or whatever it is. And usually you always get to talk to them after they're at the merch booth after, and they're super chill humans, usually like probably self-funding the tour or figuring it out. And those can be really curious conversations because you find out like what they're doing it for, or you find out, that they might have just rocked a show in Edmonton and that was their home city and it was like the biggest vibe ever. And then the next day they're in Saskatoon and there's like this little crowd of people, but they love them and it's like the dopest show for these 15 people. And it's just curious to see how different artists respond to that. Some artists are like, I'm bigger than this. Like, y'all don't even know how dope I am where I'm from. But it's like other people are like, this is so amazing that 15 people came out in a city that I've never been to. So it's kind of like, what are you here for? And I just think that all of it is dope to me. Like, I don't ever really mind if it's like a small group or a small vibe, or if it's like a blown up space with like a huge vibe. Like, it's all good. It's all just experience. You
rocked you were the opening for our grand opening, the first act.
That was super fun.
Like, you rocked it, and that's exactly what it was. It was, I mean, other than like the people that were watching on live, and there were a couple people, I think like 100 people throughout the day.
Like, that's dope.
Something like that. But it was just a couple people in the room, and you rocked it like, you were rocking the crowd.
You have to love that and bring
that's what it's about.
Because I've seen that too with big artists. Like, before, Pemberton was this festival that went for a couple years, and I went there and they always had amazing hip hop acts. I saw Tyler the Creator there, Kendrick Lamar, Run the Jewels, Missy Elliott. Like, over the years they had some really good acts, and it was really, that was almost my favorite thing, was to watch how they performed, in the way they performed, and what that evoked from the crowd and them, and the whole experience and memory from those. And it was really different, right? It's like always different. They're individuals. We forget that. And so are we as creatives. We're human beings. Just trying to like figure it out while making stuff. It is kind of crazy. So you said, just to expand on that, so we're talking about collaborations, and you said, hip hop is this thing, and you still want to community build. So what inspires you to community build? I think at the core of it, community building is what I believe makes the world a better space, and it makes humanity stronger. And I feel like it's fascinating that when we look at the times of life that we're in, at the start of the pandemic, everybody was like, we're in this together. How do we support each other? How can I get this food to my neighbor who's in isolation? Like, what can I do that's meaningful and just generous? It was almost like the Christmas spirit, like at that start of the pandemic, of humanity has to come together. We're going to help each other. We're going to stay separate. We're going to do this. And if you look at how it has shifted to this space now where it's divisive and it's like these people deserve to die because of their choices, like it's really wild how quickly that shift has happened. And so for me, at the time that we're in now, I feel like community building is essential because it's reminding people of humanity and reminding people of, like, regardless of any of these labels, right? What sex we are, who we love, you know, what we identify as, our race, vaccinated, unvaccinated. It's like we're human beings. And I think when you get to share in a community space, especially where you're just being creative and having fun, that is something that I think is crucial to our world. And I think that I see that at all ages because I work, you know, with youth in a lot of my work and jobs, and then I do it for Joy as an adult with Cypher. And I just think that we always need that, and more than ever now. It's a very interesting time to be alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do it too. You do community and all the things that you're moving. It's like allowing people a space to share, and platforms that's like a level up of a gift. I feel like I do the platforms where people can kind of play and explore and fall in love with it. And then it's like once they have that and they're hooked, they need things to go to and share in, right? So we need like all those steps throughout it in any city or any space. Yeah.
So, any new music on the way?
Yeah, I think that, well, okay, this is a funny thing. So 2022, I'm going to kick off with old music because I dropped, before the Love EP, I had this single, Bounce, which it's like my favorite single to perform. It's super fun. And I'd recorded this music video for it. And it was meant to drop like, you know, right at the pandemic, like literally March was when the pandemic hit. I can't remember what year that was. And then it was this state of chaos in the world. It wasn't the climate. I was like, is the world ending? Like when it first hit, we were all like, is the world ending? And so the music video is like a house party. Everybody's touching, like licking syrup off their fingers. We're eating waffles. It's like, it just wasn't a vibe. So I've had it just in this vault, and I was like, you know what? This isn't going away, so I'm going to drop this. So I'm going to release that music video, which I'm really excited about. And then I have my first music video from the Love EP that I also was kind of like, I guess I was waiting. I'm sure maybe other artists did that too. It was like, oh, it's not the right time. But I've learned that like it's probably never the perfect time, and put your stuff in the world because you never know. Like you might not be here in a little while. So I'm going to start with dropping those music videos. So they're old tracks, but it feels like really important new content with a lot of people that I love in them. So those will be fun. And then I think in spring, that's when I'm like, that is when I'll drop probably a single, some vibes. I think that those are like, I don't know. What do you think about the conversation of like singles versus full projects versus EPs versus like what are we in now?
I feel like it still is the creative, like whatever the artist sees the vision to be, like
cool.
Whatever you should see it out to be, because like, you know, sometimes there's classic 6-track projects, there's classic 14-track projects, there's classic 22-track projects, there's classic one song, like, you know, you can, you know what I mean? Like there's sometimes you have a song that's a single and it doesn't fit on an album, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that's true. And I think that's fun to play with and see what comes out from that, you know? And I watch some artists who just drop like singles like crazy, and I think that that's amazing that they have like, they're being that prolific with it, and then other people who like really put it into like a well thought out project to release. And I feel like I'm in the in-between right now. So it's like, cool, this I think I'll be ready to put out into the world in the spring, and then we'll see if this project, you know what I mean? Yeah. What's going to be on it? What's going to get cohesive? And I like linking music with the seasons. For me, that just feels like a natural thing. Like spring or fall, those feel like big, significant times of change for me always. And so that's when I like to kind of release music and put it out. Whereas like summer is just like playtime, be in it, let yourself have the experiences and the stories that allow you to write meaning into your music. And then winter is a time of like coming in and kind of reflecting and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of.
We're all in cycles. We're all in cycles.
Kind of interesting, like, perspective on on all of that.
I wonder what it would be like to be in this, I don't know, space of somebody who's, say, like a famous person where they never get off time. I think that would actually be really hard. So sometimes when you're creating, it's like, think about what you really want to have come from this, you know, and if it's really going to bring you what you want it to bring. Because for me, it's like, if I drop stuff and I can just get paid in a way that allows me to feel abundant and have freedom and help people out when they need it, and I'm doing work that I think is meaningful in the world, like, I'm good, I'm set. Whereas I think some people like really want whatever that other level of it is. I'm like, I want to be able to go to the grocery store and buy apples when I want. I don't have to worry about swarms. I don't know. It might be fun for a little while, but for life, you know?
I feel like the goal to me of the rap game, if we look at the Kendricks and the Coles, is to be able to, like, you know, like, be like Cole and, you know, drop an album once every other year, right? Like, and get a bag just from, you know, he always does great first weeks. Totally. And the album just went platinum, the one he dropped this year, the off season. And
you don't watch them struggle
to
get the, I guess, like, attention. It just comes out and people are waiting. You know what I mean? They know it, they trust it, they feel a connection to it. It's almost like it's like your family, you know? Puts out a project and you're, like, obviously going to support it.
So that's how I feel. And I definitely, as a consumer of music, and even as a creator, I love albums. I would I like to listen to albums or tapes, right? Like, with like a whole body of work.
Yes.
So I feel like that makes sense to me, like, you know, but I feel like that's the finish line, is that, like, Kendrick is 4 years now not dropped an album. But when he drops, you know it's going to do good, right? Like, so it's
so much.
But that's the goal, right? Is to get to that point where, you know, they wanted that, you know, for 4 years, and you can come back and he's probably still doing good off the last album. But yeah, like, it's just singles. Like, so you were talking about how, like, artists are dropping singles and you would rather, you know, you don't just want to drop singles frequently. You would rather just have, like, put more thought into it and then drop. And I just feel,
for me,
and I kind of agree with that, because to me, I feel like if you're dropping a single all the time, and I do feel like, again, it's different paths. Maybe that's the path to get to that point. Right. But I just feel like, the fans, or however it's being consumed, like, it just doesn't seem as meaningful. I just feel like, you know what I mean? Like,
or you're gonna repeat some stuff. Like, okay, because I find this, like, I love and listen to, like, honestly, like, when people say, like, they are fans of Tupac or Biggie, it's like they have a lot of tracks. Tupac has a ton of music, and I've genuinely, like, listened to it. And if you genuinely listen to Tupac's catalog, there's a lot of repetition, like, a lot of themes, a lot of words, a lot of sentences, right? Because that was also just the vibe of that era. And I think he's a genius. I'm a huge fan, but I think that that's probably part of it, right? The more you put out, that's why living is important. And I think that, who knows if that's intentional, what Kendrick's doing, but maybe he's out living for a couple years to find, you know, his new content, his new stories, his inspiration.
He has a kid now.
Yeah, that's probably going to be, like, a huge shift in it, right? Yeah, all those things come into it. Because I think maybe we identify with things because that's how we feel like we get to, like, you know, have some pillar that we stand by, because people identify with their jobs, or they identify with their relationship status, or whatever their thing is, maybe their car even. But it's like, really, all of that stuff is kind of like extras that we put on, and we can do that to ourselves as artists too. So it's good to remember, like, oh yeah, you're just like a being that's existing, you know, and this music is something that you find meaning in. And that's so important, because we get to choose what we find meaning in, but it's not everything and not all of you. So if it doesn't do well, or if it blows up to the moon, like, you're still a being. You know, like, either way. So, but I wonder what that would be like if you put out a first project, like Kendrick's first project, and it just goes so wild. Imagine that pressure. I guess you could either take it as pressure or, like, joy and excitement to, like, how do you follow up things like that, right? We see that all the time. And you even saw that some of Eminem's projects where they were, like, terrible because people were just, like, so into what the content was with the first ones, right?
First ones went, like, 10 times platinum.
Yeah, and then there was some terrible stuff that was put out. So, I don't know. Maybe it's like the Spider-Man movies. You just can't hit it every time.
Have you seen the latest Spider-Man?
I haven't, no. Because, do you know why? This is why. I feel like I never go to mainstream things. I did see the new Matrix, and that was rad. But the last Spider-Man I saw was the one with Tobey Maguire, and it was just so cheesy for me that I was like, I don't get it. I don't get the Superman vibe, you know? And I just went straight over to, like, the Iron Man Avenger crew and was like, I'm never coming back, Spider-Man. But maybe I'll try it. Are you into that realm?
I'm 100. Yeah.
And was it great? People have told me that I need to see this one.
I think it's like people are saying it's like it's one of the best.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's definitely like a lot of hype around it right now. But I'm also like I read comic books before they made like movies about Spider-Man.
So dope. Like
me
too. Comics and anime.
I 100% believe that like this was a really great movie in the chronicles of all Spider-Man movies, but maybe not as great as people are saying. I feel like it needs to air out, but like it's definitely worth checking out.
Do you think that superheroes become like Santa? I heard this on the radio. Someone was comparing like the idea of Santa with Spider-Man, and they're both out, and it's around Christmas time, and it's like I think in a way superheroes do become like the adult versions of Santa. These things we believe in, and there's like kind of this magic era, and it's real life, but it's not. It's just interesting parallel.
Yeah. I don't know what it is that makes superheroes so appealing, but my favorite superhero is always Batman, and it still is Batman.
Dope.
And even from like very young, Batman doesn't have superpowers, and so like it's not superpowers that are appealing to me about like a superhero, I feel like it is just the, I don't know what it is, like I still, but it's like till this day, it's the last Avengers movie was like the biggest box office movie of all time. Like till this day, like it's so appealing. I'm curious. Like
what I think is dope is how superhero movies, I guess movies in general, can align with music in the way like when I think about Black Panther, I hear that theme song. Do you know what I mean? Like that is like it's like I can't literally hear the movie Black Panther without thinking of that songs, and so they align, and I think that is what can be really dope about movies and music and that space of hip hop as well, because you'll see like artists who kind of are like dope or in a space will be commissioned to write a song, or I watched Pharrell's it's like his masterclass on empathy. And it's not just him every episode, but anyway, in one of his episodes, he's talking about how he wrote that song, the happy song, for the Despicable Me movie, which is like this like, cheesy kid cartoon movie, but he wrote this song, and then the song like blew up because he wrote it for this movie. And I just think that those interconnections are always so curious, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like he was so inspired. He was like, I don't even write music like that, but I wrote it for this movie, and then it exploded. What's the soundtrack for the new Spider-Man? Do they have like a track?
I haven't been through it, but I don't think it's like...
See, now you've broken my theory.
I don't think it's anything crazy.
Like every dope movie comes with a song.
But there's probably... I feel like it was crazy because like I've seen all the Spider-Man movies, and this Spider-Man movie, if you don't already know, I'm not spoiling it for you, like it has all the Spider-Man in it. Right. Like, so it has all the previous... Spider-Man in it, because like they have a crazy budget to make this happen. Like for Sony, they have all the rights to all these characters, like all the previous ones. But yeah, basically all of these, like having all these previous guys in it, made it just that much more like made people just it just made it. I feel like from all of their movies, they all had different themes. They all have different theme musics when like the Spider-Man is doing like the iconic things that he's doing, like swinging and shit. Yes. And so being in this movie, I felt like in the action scenes, all of them got their individual ones from their movies. Yeah. So I don't know, it's crazy. Like it was nostalgic. That's what this movie is more than anything else. That's why I feel like there's a lot of hype, because there's several generations of Spider-Man fans now. Like the first Spider-Man movie came out like, I don't know, 2004 or something. Like so and music and movies can both do that, right? Like take us into those nostalgic places of like, wow, what was happening at that time? Like, wow, the memories, those feelings. Like, who was with me when I went and saw that movie? Who was with me when I listened to that album? Driving that one day. Like, I think that those things are neat, how they evoke those feelings, right? Yeah. So you said you saw the latest Matrix? I did, and it was great. I just love that, though. I feel like I exist in a pretty like metaphysical thought way, like I am curious about existence and what we're doing here. Yeah. And I'm curious about the possibilities of it. And sometimes it can make you feel like you're in deep. Like sometimes I have these moments if I'm thinking about what does it actually mean to be alive, and like what is the system of Earth? You like go in like this rabbit hole, and you're just like, what is even real? Like I think it can be overwhelming. But I also like playing in those realms, Part of it's curious.
Yeah. I do that, I think, too, with music. Like, there's such a brilliant way of using, like, hip-hop in particular, like, with metaphors or stories or these other layers to it. You can bring in all those layers, for me, with hip-hop in the funnest way. So I really think that that's, like, something to play with and just try and, like, uncover what any of us are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really do love hip-hop, man. Like,
yeah.
I do feel like it is, you know, it is crazy. How do you feel about the future of hip-hop?
I mean, I feel really hopeful and excited that it will reach more people because, like, really, if you think about it, when we were, like, young cats in school, the stuff that was starting to come on the radio, it was like, that was like a revolutionary thing that hip-hop was even getting in those spaces. And now, if you look at it, when I'm teaching, like, in schools about hip-hop, like, teachers know that hip-hop is, like, effective, that it's community, it's a lot about unity and respect. Yep. It doesn't have, I think, the necessarily, like, totally negative and frankly racist reputation that it used to have of being separate. So I'm like, oh, this is shifting and it will continue to shift. And one of the interesting things I feel like that I encountered in the last month was there's, like, a rapper from Saskatoon who released a kid's book called like Welcome to the Cypher, and it's all about ciphering, and it's a children's book because he has children now, and he said, you know, I went to get my kids some books to teach them about rap, and there's nothing for kids about rap. There's a lot of stuff, like, you know, for adults about, you know, history of hip hop or whatever, and he was like, there needs to be some kid books about rap because, like, these rappers are all starting to have kids, and we want to, like, be able to read our kids something that's, like, about our culture and about our lives. And to me, I'm like, that's amazing, but there's only one kids book, you know what I mean, maybe in all of North America about ciphering 2021. So I feel like there is a lot to grow in terms of, like, the branches, umbrella tree of hip hop. And I think that, honestly, frankly, the more people that are looped into it, the better, because I think that it is really about celebrating people's dopeness and people using their voice and people exploring and expressing. And we always need that. I think that we always need that, right? Any of, like, the beefs and that part of it, I don't know if that is, like, to me, at the core of hip hop. It can be a part of it, but I think the core of hip hop is love. I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I vibe with it, and I want everybody to connect with that in some way.
Yeah, that's really dope.
Yeah.
And that's a good segue into our freestyle.
Hey, okay. Oh my gosh. I've been rapping every week with Cypher, but I took Christmas off, so this is probably the longest it's been before I freestyled, so I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just a sample chopped. There's no drums on it.
Cool.
And it's looping. Maybe it's like a 8-bar loop that's gonna loop for
a while. Okay.
So yeah, I'll let you start it off.
Okay. Ooh. And it's recording. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Hey. Polo Sho on the beat, Zeta free. I'ma take you down a minute, little higher, way we vibing, and I know that you be coming in and sheesh, cause you be looking for a second, and I think you wanna wreck it, so come on and spend some time with me. I just wanna get higher with you, I think that we perspire, cause you know we transpire and we be moving through the galaxies, it's intergalactic, cause I can take you into outer space, the way that I grab it, cause it's super fantastic, super fresh, know that we be moving and we rhyming to the best, there's no test on it, cause I come in with such ease, it's like gold, everything that I be touching in it is. Talking about the superheroes and moving life, I'm talking about the super zeros and moving strife. You know that we be hating on each other, then you low. I wanna raise up the single women on this dole, trying to rise higher, trying to build something better for the kids coming up. Yeah, you know they gon' hate through any weather, they be rising, so you know that I salute. They the real superheroes, cause in every day they do it not for them, but for someone else, and that's a real thing. Generosity is how we all be being real queens, ha. So that's how I'm I'm always gonna live it. I'm never slowing down, cause I'm rising all up in it. I want so much to give and I want so much to show. I got so much love coming out of my soul, so I just wanna keep passing it and keeping it so live. Yeah, I'm never moving vicious, but if you just come and step aside, then I will cut it out, always lay it down, never stopping, I just blow it all up when I move all across the town. Breathe aloud, breathe aloud.
Yeah. Breathe aloud, breathe aloud. Love the sound, the vibe you invoke. We just spoke and it seems like we invoked the rhythm. You know the system is going deep in them. Yeah, I really love when we going on the beat and it's smooth. It's what I do. Chop up the sample like I do in the stew. Hey yo, it's Young Show. I got a big dream and that's to make $1 million from doing these things. And I don't know about these other cats, but I podcast so I can make a big bag. Yeah, that's why the podcast is called Getting to the Bag, yo. Walking with shitload of swag, yo. You don't understand this, yo. I came to do this for my family. I wanna win a Grammy, but I don't just wanna. So I'm working harder, and not just harder, I'm working smarter than I was last year. It's the end of the year, so I'm doing a recap. Got a toque on, yo. I told my mom I'ma be a new son, the one that's gonna put it on. You understand that I can't understand what all these other cats about if they ain't trying to buy their moms a house. Yo, they must be playing around like they in the playground. I don't understand. Yo, look, they must think it's Squid Games. They on some kid games. Yo, I'm into big things. I'm trying to buy a big ring. Yo, and I'm trying to buy some big chains. Yo, and I'm trying to stay cruising down the highway. Call it 22X, yo. I'm trying to be the next one, yo. It's Young Show, dumb flows when I spit on the mic. But I'm thinking of my investments and how I could write some new raps that's gonna get me past the other cats that ain't even in my stratosphere, yo. I'm taking it past Earth, yo. I'm burying cats in the dirt, yo. Yo, I'ma ease it off the brakes, cause I'm still on the highway. Just came back from space, I don't know where my day's been, yo. I'm just chillin', doing what I can. It's a vacation in my man, and I'm just being, yo, pass it back to Z Free. I know you feeling me,
Feeling it, talking about them bing rings, yeah, I got 10, cause you know I buy this shit for myself, I like to spend on it, but I'm not really about commercial or this capitalism. I don't care about the money stacking, cause I'm vibing in it, that's what I be doing it for. I give myself a high, when I step on stage, I just roll them out, I'm shouting ice, and they be shouting it back, because I give my energy to the crowd, and they go mad for it every time, moving like a dime piece on it, cause you know this health is everything, that's what I be moving for. I hit the gym hard cause I wanna live it long. Trying to see 95, you know I be going strong. Always got so much that I'm trying to put out. I'm talking about this mad content and living it loud. I never ask about some dumb shit, front about some run shit. Play into the drama cause you know that it's some dumb shit. I just wanna have a little fun with it, baby. I might write a song for you cause you be making me crazy. Yeah, that's how I channel it, whether love or the pain. I put it all into the lyricism, that's just the game. Yeah, you know that's what I record, you know that's what I do for. That's what I be moving and you know I'm living so in charge. I never worry about how other people step, I just watch my own feet, I just do my own reps, cause you know that's how I best be moving with mad respect. Yeah, I'm cool with everybody, yeah, you know that is the best. Yeah, I never wanna front, I never turn a cold shoulder, cause you don't know anybody's story rising around you. Yeah, you best be showing love, cause you know this human too. It might just take 2 steps and then that could be you. So that's how I be breathing, yeah, my parents taught me right. Never be living or lurking above it in this life. Nature always teaches me, that's why I go to it, cause she reminds me to breathe deep and show respect to it. If we ain't got that earth, then we got nothing left. You best be grateful for the oxygen filling your chest. That's how it gives you the energy, you can step to the mic. That's how it gives you all the catalyst and building them hype. So I'm thanking all of this for putting me here, this miracle of consciousness. Can't believe I appeared. When I look in the mirror, that reflection never seemed clear, but now I'm stepping into it. Z's here.
Hey, yeah, have no fear. The one and only's here. Yeah, we came to say today without no capes, just a pen and blade, yo. I mean the pen's a blade. That's why I'm cutting through anyone that stands as fake. Yo, I'm trying to make a couple grand a day. Yo, they don't understand what we trying to do. Yo, a couple albums is classic, and then get to a point where We can drop albums each year or every other year and just keep getting paid. Cause that's what we want for our mothers, man. Yeah, fuck.
Count it.
Yeah.
Shout out to mom.
Yeah. Fuck, that was tight. That was tight. Fuck.
So good. That was fun.
See, I feel like you got mad reps. I'm really, yeah.
I love it. I
feel
best
like
have mad reps.
I pushed myself today.
Yeah, you did dope.
Thank you.
I think it's always great when people just play with it. Yeah.
What'd you
and the
think?
beat is tight.
Yeah.
I love the beat. The way you work samples, yeah, that's definitely a skill you have. That was great.
Word. Yeah, that's good. It's always good to freestyle. Fuck, I wish the beat went longer, but it is what it is. I feel like I looped it forever, but it's still like, fuck. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have to start maybe getting a couple beats for the freestyle because it's always like this. But yeah, that was the Getting to the Bag podcast, episode 6. If you're watching this on YYC Hip Hop Daily, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to leave a thoughtful comment if you're fucking with the podcast. Make sure you follow YYC Hip Hop Daily on Instagram and Solace Studios. You can find me on Instagram at Polo Sho YYC. I'm also on Facebook with that same name. You can find my music on all streaming platforms at Polo Sho.
Dope.
What about you, Z the Free?
Z the Free, ZHE the Free. Find me in all spaces and show love and love yourselves, love each other, love the planet, and do what you do.
Yeah. Thank you for chopping it up with me. You're always welcome back.
Thank you for having me. This is fun. Keeps the community vibes real. Much love, y'all.
Peace, guys.